Welcome to another episode of The Profile. I'm Gary Dunn, and tonight, in the hot seat, I have a very, very special person. Jill Mowson. How are you, Jill?
I'm fine, thanks, Gary.
Thanks for coming in
My pleasure.
to talk about your history and your life. And, I'm so excited because I've never interviewed anyone like you because you did everything before I was born, and I'm old. So, Jill, where were you born?
I was born in Brazilian Hospital, Netherlands,
Yep.
on my mother's birthday,
Yep.
and with a twin brother who arrived as well, my twin brother. And my mother and father weren't expecting, in those days they didn't have the cameras in the seat, whatever you call them, to take photos.
Yeah.
So they didn't know that she was having twins.
Wow.
My mother never ever got over the fact that my father got such a shock he forgot to wish her a happy birthday.
Did you come out first or your brother?
I did,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Pushed your way through there. What instruments do you play, Jill?
The piano and the bassoon.
And what was that light bulb moment for you that started you on your musical career?
I was 8 years old when my father started teaching me the piano, and I can't quite remember whether I was happy about it or not, because he was retired at that stage and was in charge of our practice.
Yeah.
You couldn't avoid it, and he told me what I had to practice and so on.
Yeah.
So I was looking back, I feel very privileged and lucky that Jack and I had a mentor.
Jack was your father's name, Jack Harrison?
No, Jack was my twin brother.
Oh, sorry, Jack was
And
your twin brother.
Yes, and Jack started learning the clarinet a bit later than that.
Yeah. So, your father, he was a musician as well?
Yes, he came home from the First World War.
Yeah.
And he was a pianist, pardon me, and I believe he gained his associate from London by correspondence. I can't quite understand how you can get a degree like that when they can't hear you play the piano. But apparently it was all to do with harmony, and that side of music.
Yeah.
And he put a band together, and they played in the pit for the silent picture.
Yeah.
Picture times when they played just mood music for the silent pictures.
Wow.
And that went on for a few years. He also had a job during the day in the lands department.
Yep.
Did very well out of that. In those days, they could see where the government was going to open the land up. And of course, talk about insider trading, they'd been jailed today. They used to buy up the land and make a lot of money when the roads were put in.
Yeah.
So Dad retired at 47 years of age, having done 2 jobs, daytime job and band at night.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the talkies came in and they were all out of work, the musicians. And so he said, well, we're going to change this band into a dance band.
Yeah.
Which he did, and he continued playing.
That was 1946 or ish? Or?
1946 is that was when my brothers and I started playing professionally.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, other bands that you've played in, like, can you tell us a little bit about different bands?
No jazz bands. Only I never played in Jack's band.
Yep.
And then I turned legitimate, as they said in those days, became classical.
Okay.
Legit.
Yeah.
They
Legit.
called it. Yes. Long hair was not legit, or was it? Anyway, my father one day said, "You can't go on playing jazz for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
As you get older, I think we'll aim for the symphony orchestra."
Okay.
And I was about 14 when he suggested that I learn the bassoon, because there were no bassoons in Perth, no bassoon players, and they were setting up the West Australian Symphony Orchestra in 1951.
So you just picked up a bassoon and
No,
learnt it, or?
no, I only played the piano, and my father bought a bassoon when he heard that there were scholarships going, given by the ABC.
Yep.
For oboe, French horn and bassoon. They needed those
Yep.
vacancies were there. And they were looking for music students to take on these unusual instruments.
Yeah.
And my father just said to me, "You're going to learn the bassoon." And
Yeah.
I said, "What's that?" And he told me what it was. And he bought an old bassoon from a sailor off the ship, and it turned out to be high pitch. You know, there's the continental pitch, which is worldwide.
Yeah.
An A, you know, is an A. And this was a high-pitched bassoon. That's all he could find. So I had to lip it down to get the right pitch to play with the piano. And I had a few lessons from a friend who ran a music shop and had a tutor. And he could tell me what to do in the tutor, the fingering and all that. And so I had to audition at the ABC. And when I look back on what I played, I got the scholarship, but there's only one other guy that went for it.
Okay.
And I played da 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 da. You know that one? I dreamt I dwelt in marble halls.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, I got the scholarship and had to spend 2 years in Adelaide at the conservatorium. No conservatorium in Perth in those days.
No. So you originally, well, obviously born in Perth, and then you had to go east.
I had to
in
go
those days.
to Adelaide for 2 years.
Yeah.
4 hours a day I played the bassoon for 2 years.
Wow.
And came back and got the job. But I still had no competition whatsoever. They
no
had
one
to take
played
me
the
whether they liked it or not. They promised me the job. After they said, "We will give you a scholarship and we promise you a job after 2 years."
So it was rigged.
Nowadays, you'd be 6 years before you'd get a job on the bassoon.
Wow. So you Perth Orchestra, WASO, MSO,
Yes.
Elizabethan
John
Trust.
and I both went over to Melbourne, played in the MSO.
And you toured
then-
with Placido Domingo and Joan Sutherland as well.
Yes, I did a tour with Placido Domingo, the tenor.
Yeah.
And Joan Sutherland sang regularly. It was like an opera and ballet orchestra that I played in. So I had a big spell, had 3 children, waited until they all went to school.
One of them sitting here.
There, waited till he went to
Oh,
school.
Polly.
And the opera and ballet job was a fantastic job for
Yeah.
me. It was mostly night work, 10-to-1 rehearsals, so I could cope with the family.
Wow.
John was so busy being principal double bass with the MSO and practicing for hours on end.
Your husband, John.
John, yes.
Tell us a little bit about
Well, he
him, because he was
started-
a double bass player, wasn't he?
Yes, he arrived in Melbourne at the same, in Perth in 1951 as a young student. They needed bass players.
Yeah.
So he was sent over from the Conservatorium in Sydney. And he had a similar start to his career as Jack and I did. He was in the Modern Jazz Quartet under Jack Brokenshire.
Yeah.
And that group was way ahead in those days than any other
They were
group
like
in
the bee's
Australia.
knees. Everyone
They
was.
went to America and did very well. John did not go with them because he wanted to pursue a classical career. So he was sent to Perth and as a rank and file double bass player, and that's where I met him.
Wow.
So the 3 of us were together, my 2 men in my life. We were all together in the orchestra. We had a lot of fun.
Wow. So can you give us a sense of what it was like playing, in Perth in those days?
What, in the dance band?
Yes.
Well, it was very exciting for us. Jack and I were 15, and my brother, who was the drummer, Ray. It was very exciting, really, because after we won the dance band contest, the phone didn't stop ringing, and my father, at that stage, left his job and became our manager. And I can remember weeks where we were working every night of the week and earning, to us it was fantastic money. And don't forget that my parents had gone through the Depression and it was just after the war, the Second World War, and a penny was a penny. And I could see my father had one thing in mind, that was to get us jobs and earn money.
Were there groupies in those days?
Yeah, we used to have a few around. Both my brother who played the drums and my twin brother married girls who used to follow us around and sit by the band, you know.
Just waiting to talk to...
Where's your next gig? And they'd turn up and they both married girls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it? So what were some of the venues like that you played at in those days?
Well, Kings Park was the number one.
Yep.
It was quite an exclusive place, and all the Dalkeith and Peppermint Grove kids would be driving their father's Jaguars and so forth up, you know, just kids they were, and it was always packed out. We played there every Saturday night, and Jack finished up playing Golden Wedding and getting on a chair, you know, with a high note.
Yes.
And that became, you know, part of our group. And it was very successful and, as I say, quite exciting for us.
So I believe, talk to me about Harry Black, because I believe you beat Harry in a competition.
I didn't want to mention that, Gary.
I'm sorry. If you don't want to talk about it, that's
the
fine.
dance band contest, we were 14 or 15, and Dad had trained us, of course, to play as for dance band music. I'll tell you about the music we played later. And when, as I say, when we won that competition, it all went mad. And now, what was that last question? Oh, Harry Black. Well, we beat Harry Black, and I've forgotten the name of the other fellow now. But they're all top bands, about 6 other bands.
Yeah.
Now, we were unknown, but we came on and Jack played Golden Wedding. And the way it was judged was by the clapping. Yeah. And I'm not sure whether it was the volume of the clapping or whether it was the length of how long it went on. But that was how it was judged. Wow. Yeah. And we won that. It was the very first dance band contest.
You know, I interviewed Sue, Harry's daughter.
Sue, yes,
ago,
I've seen the interview
episodes.
with Sue.
Yeah,
I've known her on and off.
Yeah, beautiful
over
lady.
the years.
Yeah.
And Harry was head of our union.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So funny experiences and moments in your playing career. I've got a few things written here that no net, no tennis. What is that?
Well, that was when I played the bassoon in the Opera and Ballet Orchestra in Melbourne. We played Romeo and Juliet, and of course you played these works about 50 times, sometimes 200 times. I worked out I'd played one, The Merry Widow, ballet 200 times. But the ballet, Romeo and Juliet, they dance around with bowls of fruit at some stage. I never ever saw it, mind you, because I was under the lip of the stage.
So you didn't see anyone in the audience?
No, didn't see anything, no. And the fruit would fall off the bowls every night. Every night we get plastic fruit coming into the pit. We've had lots of things come into the pit, but this particular story
can you talk about the other things that fell in on?
Yeah, this night 2 apples came down and plonk, plonk. And my offsider said, Romeo's not going to do well tonight. He's just lost his balls. Well, I couldn't play. I hid behind the music stand so the conductor wouldn't see me laughing.
So that was balls falling in the pit.
Yes, and the plastic violin fell down and knocked an oboe out of the oboe's hands on the floor, and this sort of thing. And a chook came into the pit one night.
How did the chook get in the pit?
Well, there was a little pen at the back of the opera, and I can't remember the name of the opera, and there was the guy with the crook who was supposed to hold the chooks back so that they wouldn't come forward. One got away, and it flew into our pit. And the horn player next to me had landed on his shoulder, and he went like that, and it finished up in the audience. It was written up in the Adelaide paper. We were on tour in Adelaide, and the chook went along the first row, and of course everybody standing up going like this as the chook went along. And then eventually it was someone threw it back into the pit
Oh,
and
wow.
landed on a drum, and the drummer just pushed it back on stage.
Yeah.
But after that, I mean, I was shaking because I was just about to play a bassoon solo when this chook flies by, and I was one of the ones that said something has to happen. We can't have this happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's too dangerous. Lots of things actually finished up in the pit, and so they suggested a net, and
I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
they covered us, pardon me, with this net, and that's right. And then the ballet said, we're going to go to Canberra on tour, and you know, it was the orchestra having this tour, and I just said, a net, we must have a net, no tennis. And of course the orchestra had written up a sweater for me, no net, no tennis. So it became a bit of a story.
Annette. I know. Anyway, that's another story. So you did a lot of laughing with Jack, and there was one
Oh,
time
God.
live on the ABC.
No,
you were actually live. Can you
I
tell
just
me
got
about
the
that?
giggles. We played a little thing, a little piece, apart from other music on this program, and it was a Bach fugue. You know, dum ba da dum bum bum ba da dum bum bum ba da dum bum ba da da. Then the bum ba da dum bum. It's like a fugue.
Yeah.
Well, we got out. Oh, and it sounded like Schoenberg, the music, and I mean, we were quite young, Jack and I got the giggles. He'd pull yourself together. All this would have gone over the air. And we got back on track, you know, and finished it.
Yeah. So you were told by management in those days, I think, to not hang out with the
yes.
brass section.
No, that was, yes, in the ballet orchestra.
Yeah.
The manager came to me and said, I don't think you should be mixing with the brass section.
Why?
They were all boys, could be my children, lovely
Okay.
boys, and they used to look after me on tour and make sure I was okay. I was like their mother. I don't think you should mix with the brass section. They're a bad influence on you, because we used to drink too much, particularly the trumpet player would come in and he'd be fluffing away on his trumpet. But I didn't drink before a performance. That was, you had to go all day, do your job, and then you'd always have a drink afterwards.
I'm exactly the same, very regimented with that.
Yes, and that's why I think when you retire, why you have a few drinks.
Yeah. You like a bit of Foster's, didn't you? And,
I used to love a Foster's beer, yeah.
And tell me the story about Joan Sutherland and the Richard Bonning story.
Oh, God.
Please.
Yes, well, that was a rehearsal of Othello in the Palais in Melbourne. It was the final rehearsal, and he stopped and said to his wife, Joan Sutherland, you know, your accent is wrong. It was all in Italian. The operas were always in Italian or German. And he tried to pronounce what she should be singing.
Yeah.
So then he said, let's go from letter, you know, S, and put his stick in, and she went, and the whole orchestra laughing their heads off. He didn't see it. He wondered what we were laughing at.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh, crazy. So, session musician outside of the orchestra, so you did the Teddy Bears Picnic?
Oh, yes. John and I did a lot of sessions
Yeah.
in Melbourne. I think it was because the fixer was from Perth.
Oh, okay.
He had just happened to be a violinist from Perth who played in the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. And, well, John was the top bass player, so he could sight read anything.
And he could pick his jobs.
I used to go along, I mean, any bassoon player could have done what I had to do with sessions, but quite often I'd go along on my own, and they'd put the earplugs on, and I had to play to fit in with the orchestra. They'd already recorded, and that was quite interesting. I did quite a few gigs, and one was the Teddy Bears Picnic. Paul reminds me of, you know, because the bassoon goes well with da ba da 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 ba da. Nice bassoon solo.
Fantastic. So, your favourite TV show growing up?
There was no television when I was
my
growing.
God.
You've forgotten I'm
Oh my God.
I'm a 90.
Oh, you're the
Gary.
first person I've had on this
Who's
show
90, I'm
who
sure.
can't say their favourite TV show growing up because there was no TV.
I certainly, I love Lucy. I loved, once I grew up, I was probably in my 20s.
Okay, yeah.
When television came in the 50s,
Yeah.
didn't it? About 53,
Yeah.
was it? 50,
I love 56 maybe? Or?
56.
Yeah.
Might have been 56.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the year of the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
John and I played for the Olympic Games in Melbourne and then returned to Perth to take up jobs in the West Australian Symphony Orchestra. And I forgot that story. When they brought the Sydney Symphony Orchestra down to Melbourne to combine. So you had an orchestra of about 140 playing for the Olympic Games concerts. And
Was that 56, was it?
that was 1956,
the
wasn't
Melbourne
it?
Olympics,
When our
yeah.
Chilla Porter
Yep.
broke the record, the high jump
Yeah,
record, and he's he married, into our family.
Wow.
Chilla, yeah. Anyway, there were about 140 musicians, and I notice every now and then there's someone from the orchestra get up and go out, and then they'd come back about 10 minutes later and thought, just going to the toilet. But this went on and it got very common. They were getting up, going out, coming back, and they whispered, there's wine tasting at the hall next door, wine tasting.
So they would nick off into there.
So all the musicians, 140 of us, took it in turns to go to the wine during the rehearsal. And it was Sir Bernard Hines, and he's looking, wondering why everyone's leaving the orchestra. He couldn't say anything because they could have been going to the toilet or anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was quite interesting.
So what would be the biggest influence by a musician or a band in your life? What influenced you in any way as far as playing music?
Other bands, you mean, or other?
Or musicians, or...
Well, Jack and I always loved Frank Sinatra and
Yeah.
Ella Fitzgerald and that sort of music, and played a lot of it.
Yeah.
My father was the main influence, of course, because,
Fantastic.
as one friend said, you've had your career offered you on a silver platter, which I guess we did. And also you didn't argue with your parents in those days. When his dad said to me, you're going to learn the bassoon, there's no way I could get out of it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to argue the point, why, and no, I'm not going to do that.
Life's changed, hasn't it?
Life has changed, I know, because kids do have an opinion these days. We didn't. We did as we were told.
Yeah.
But it paid off in our case.
Yeah.
Paid off.
Yeah, very much so. So the question I always ask every guest on the show, if you were stranded on a deserted island, right, and you could only take one album with you, what album would that be for you?
I think it would be Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
I-
Greatest hits, Frank Sinatra.
And then perhaps the Darren Reed and the and the
How does his name come?
Soul City Groovers.
You came to see us.
I'll get on.
You came to see us at Mendari last year,
The
wasn't it?
concert, yes.
And you got up and played.
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was doing that, I think Paul mentioned, I said, no, I won't do that. But
Somehow a couple of wines. And
I'd had a couple of wines and they mentioned this old lady's going to play the piano. And then I found I had to stand up and play the piano, something I'd never done.
Yeah.
I always sat down and I felt quite disorientated standing up, couldn't find the pedal.
You felt disorientated. I did, because I thought you were playing
What made you think
Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and you were actually playing
Over the Rainbow? No, I played Moon River.
Moon River.
But
It was sort of the same key. I don't know.
Thanks for your chords, by the way.
That's
I
okay.
could hear you playing the chords for me.
Wow, that was amazing. So you're not only the oldest person I've interviewed, you're the oldest person I've played with on stage.
Oh, well done. You got paid for it, though.
Yeah. We got paid. Thanks, Darren. So Darren Reed and the Soul City Groove comes up in this interview. Amazing. So, yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything about you that we don't know that you could share with us?
I can remember, yes, I had a joint with the trumpet player out of Elton John's orchestra.
Can we keep that in there?
Elton John's orchestra. What
A
happened?
joint.
What happened was, well, I wasn't 90 then. I was probably about, oh no, it would have been in my late 50s.
Yeah.
But our orchestra was up in Sydney playing at the Opera House for the ballet, which we did every year of our lives. Went up there and played, while the Sydney Ballet and Opera Orchestra were on holidays. And Elton John was there at the same time. And our trumpet player was one of my mates. Got to know the trumpet player out of the... And the trumpet player out of Elton John's orchestra invited us to the hotel for a drink after the gig, after our job. So Bill said to me, come along. So I went along with them, about 6 young people. I was probably about 20 years older than them. And we finished up in the trumpet player's bedroom. And I walked in and there was a circle of musicians sitting there, and of course I knew what they were doing. They're passing the joint around, and they sat me down. I thought I hadn't had a joint at this stage, and I don't think I had one. I've had one since. But I sat down and I thought, will I or won't I? And I thought, I better look friendly, you know. And I thought how unhygienic this was, you know, and came around and I had a puff and passed it on. And as Paul said, the next morning I wasn't very well because I'd been drinking Foster's Lager with the joint.
Oh my God, that's a funny story. So, do you collect anything, Jill?
Oh, recipes probably.
You love cooking?
Yeah, I like cooking. It's one of my hobbies, always has been. My mother had a catering business, did very well in that, catered for weddings and parties. And I suppose I got influenced by her.
So I come and stay on the 8th floor.
Oh, no.
And I don't get fed. So you're on the 6th floor. I should be staying with you.
No, but Paul brings takeaway to me every night. It's lovely. It's lovely.
Oh, I love it.
Nothing like a jester's pie, mate.
Yeah. No, I like those jester's pies.
Oh, the best pies in Australia.
Yeah.
They're fantastic, aren't they?
Are you doing a jester's ad now? Or? we need to get some sponsorship, actually. So, is there someone that you think we should interview from your side of the fence?
Yeah, well, there's actually Arbuckle, but he's classical. But he's actually doing a lot of light work at the moment.
Yep.
He plays in restaurants. I think there's 2 violins play together.
Okay. Ashley's a violin player.
Ashley was the leader of our orchestra for some time, but he left here when he was quite young, went to London and became associate principal of the London Symphony Orchestra. He's done very well in his life, and we meet occasionally and drink a bottle of wine between us.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's great. And what would you put on your gravestone, you reckon?
Oh, well, I'd have to say I've had a wonderful life.
Yeah.
And married for 68 years to a wonderful fellow.
68 years.
And I'm so lucky. I've been so lucky. And I guess some people have a bit more luck than others in life.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And I just look after my older friends these days and visit them in 3 different aged care homes and that sort of thing.
So I know you play bridge. You play bridge every week.
I played bridge all day yesterday.
Did you? Every Sunday?
Oh, no, that was a one-off.
Oh, okay.
One-off. Tuesdays and Fridays I play, but only for the afternoon. This was an all-day session for the vets.
I check in with Paul and he says, Mum's got Monday and it's Tuesday's that and Wednesday's that and Thursday's that.
Yeah, I do have something on every day. But
you're still driving,
I spend
aren't
a
you?
lot of time in bed.
I'm
still allowed to drive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, amazing.
I'm still allowed to drive.
And grandkids, how many grandkids would you have? now?
I've got two,
Yeah.
haven't we? We've got two, and yes, I'm very proud of Paris,
Yeah.
who at the age of 30 in Melbourne has her own video camera business and employs 10 people,
Oh, okay.
all older than her.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
she has fellows that carry the equipment. She goes all over the world.
Wow.
If there's a perfume in Paris that they want to sell in Australia, they prefer to have an Australian photographer
Yeah.
going over
Wow.
to take a movie. They always want that Australian influence. New York, Beijing, all over the world she goes. Well, not at the moment, of course.
I met, is it the other granddaughter?
Paris.
Chloe.
Chloe.
Oh, the other one, Chloe.
I met at the Empire Bar one night.
Chloe, I think she's been at university doing a degree on how to party all night and sleep all day.
She was pretty good.
Sleep all
I'll tell
day.
you.
You met Chloe, did you?
Yeah, I met Chloe and I can't remember your
Peter.
brother, Peter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well
met them at the Empire Bar.
Chloe now has a
So-
job. Yeah.
Could you give me your opinion on today's music? Like, because
What sort of music? You
well,
mean?
just today's music.
Oh, it's
do you hear-
fantastic because it's broadened out. It's very wide. You've got
Yeah.
your classical music.
Do you
Has
listen to
many
the modern
parts.
music? Like,
Oh, jazz music occasionally, yes, I do. I have the radio on all night because I suffer very badly from tinnitus, I think
Yeah.
it's called, of the ear.
ringing of the ears.
I have the ringing, and it's
My
not.
wife suffers from that as well.
Yeah, it's common amongst
There's
musicians,
nothing
though,
much you can do.
and particularly playing in a pit. We've got the drums right behind
Mm.
you and that sort of thing. They now put up little, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I
Festivals.
play live on stage now, and
Yeah.
I have my amp loud, rocking, and I can't believe it. Yeah, that I don't have any ringing at all.
You don't have it at all. You're
No.
lucky. I'll give you time. You
Sorry,
ca-
what was that?
You could get it.
I
Oh,
don't
dear.
think so.
Yeah.
That's the sound there, apparently. Jill,
Yeah.
is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Uh,
Got any more funny stories for me?
well, Jack, that story about the mouthpieces I didn't explain.
Okay.
My brother Jack was quite a character and naughty in the orchestra. He used to be cheeky and to conductors, and he didn't suffer fools very well. And this, I won't mention any names, but this particular conductor said one day, "Mr. Harrison, that is supposed to be pesante." And I knew damn well, I sat next to Jack in the orchestra, I knew damn well he wouldn't even know what it meant, pesante. And
For our viewers, can you
so
tell us what pesante means?
he just said back to the conductor, "Look, I'm sorry, maestro, but I haven't got my pesante mouthpiece here with me today." And no, there are quite a few funny things with conductors, and oh,
So you used to just stir them up,
yeah, he would stir them up. He was shocking.
and you just sat there
He was
quietly,
just
innocently.
sat there going, "Oh." Yes. No, we had a lot of fun in those days,
Yeah.
Gary. And and one in the opera orchestra, a story which you wouldn't believe. At the end of the first act of La Bohème, which is a very popular opera,
Yep.
there's about 100 people on stage. There's a young kids band that marches around, and there's people sitting at tables in a restaurant. It's just full of people, and it was starting to fall apart. And this Italian conductor, who's absolutely wonderful, from Milan Opera House, was conducting. But he expected everybody to be able to do their job. And it was starting to fall apart, and he put down the stick and walked out. Oh, for a moment, the whole thing was just about to collapse, but somehow it kept together. He was out for 20 seconds, and then he came back and picked up the stick, and I've never heard such joy in all my life. The opera.
So why did he go off?
Because they weren't watching him.
He cracked the shit.
And he cracked the shits, and he decided, bugger it, I'm going to
Wow,
walk out on them. He
That's
did. He
unreal.
walked out on us.
unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, isn't it? But
Yeah.
it happened.
So did you get into him after that, or?
No, we accepted that. He was a wonderful opera conductor, but he expected you to watch the. It wasn't so much the orchestra; it was the stage. Weren't watching him. He always said, "You have to look at me," in the opera, and so we learned a lesson by that. Though I think everything smartened up after that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Ship shape.
yes, was yes. I can't
Look,
think of any more story.
No. Look, it's so wonderful to have you here, and a pleasure to listen
It's
to
a
your
pleasure
stories.
for me to be here and to
And,
be able to talk about the old days. I feel part of history.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, John was the very first bass player to play a concerto on
Yeah.
the double bass. He wanted to prove to his students that the double bass could be a solo instrument.
Yeah.
And he went ahead and played every work. There aren't many of them that were written. There was one written by Mozart for viola, double bass and orchestra,
Yeah.
and he gave the first performance of that. I was the first woman bassoonist in Australia to be in a principal position. There was one woman that got into an orchestra before I did, and she was second bassoonist in Adelaide, but I was the first principal bassoon player.
And your son, Paul,
What was he the
who
first?
started Tom Tom Trading, was very legendary and bringing a whole pile of good brands into Australia.
That's
So,
right. Yeah, yes, that's right. So
Yeah.
there are quite a few firsts
Yeah.
amongst. And Jack and I were the first to perform Richard Strauss's concertino for clarinet and bassoon. Yeah,
And you're the
things
first
like that.
person of your age to get up and play with Darren Reed in the Soul City group.
Probably the first 90-year-old to blow the rock band.
But you were rocking. Anyway, Jill, so nice to
Thank
talk
you.
to you and hear your stories. And I really thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Gary.
And, you know, you're an absolute living legend.
Oh, not
Right,
really.
you are.
Thank
You
you
definitely
anyway.
are. Thank you so much for coming in. And I know we've got lots of photos and clips and stuff. So, look, thanks for joining us again, ladies and gentlemen, on the Profile. If you want to watch the episodes, keep watching them. We really appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
ProCopy, we can transfer audio to CD, make CD, DVD and Blu-ray copies, transfer video to DVD, Blu-ray or HD, digitise slides and photos and supply custom USBs. You can see more details at procopy.com.au or call us on 08 9375 3902 for more information.